Hey there, welcome to School of Emo, the podcast where we dive into the world of emo, pop punk, and everything in between. If you've ever found yourself in your car screaming the lyrics to Taking Back Sunday, wearing way too much eyeliner in the early 2000s, adding a buckle or a chain to every outfit you've put on, you are in the right place. I'm Erin Judge, and each week I will be your fellow student, guiding you through the music, the culture, and the history that shaped an entire generation of angsty teens. I am not the teacher of this school. I am a fellow student, here to learn alongside you and from you. Together, we will cover a lot of information that doesn't really matter, but will remind us of the days of stalking MySpace channels and getting lost in chat rooms. So connect your dial-up, turn on your webcam, and let's go to School of Emo. Welcome back to School of Emo. Today's episode is a little bit more casual. You are in my kitchen currently, and it's going to be quick as we review and recap the Jack's Mannequin show that happened on Saturday, June 7th in New York City at Pier 17. I had told you as we led up to, we did a full recap on Andrew McMahon and his role in this kind of pop punk emo space. And Jack's Mannequin really was the version of Andrew McMahon that was the most emo. And there was a lot that Jack's Mannequin did for the emo scene, the emotional vulnerability, side of things. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they announced their first album, Everything in Transit. And right after, before they even fully got to announce it, Andrew McMahon was diagnosed with cancer. And through the release of the album, he was fighting cancer, went through treatments and fought it amazingly. We're all proud of and happy about that. That's the celebration now of Jack's Mannequin. But during that time, they did the Dear Jack documentary where they kind of walked through his experience, shared that with fans. And because of that experience and fans really taking a hold to the mission and supporting him and what he was going through, they pushed Jack's Mannequin forward. Jack's Mannequin became a well-known name in the scene at the time, went on to have a few more albums, kind of separated, but never stopped, just kind of took a break. Andrew McMahon went on to do Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, and the other band members, some of them went with him, some went their own way, but Jack's Mannequin has kind of popped up and done other things over time. So this year they're celebrating 25 years of Everything in Transit and that story. And so this show and this tour is a celebration of that anniversary by just fully celebrating Jack's Mannequin and giving Jack's Mannequin a space on the stage alone. Not Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, Jack's Mannequin, and Something Corporate, which are all Andrew McMahon's bands and projects. So this tour, a little bit of the experience, we'll start with the venue, just like we did with the Pierce the Veil recap from venue all the way to the show itself and the set. The venue, we've been here before. We went to the Yellow Card. My husband and I, we went to Yellow Card, their kind of comeback tour with Mayday Parade Story of the Year at the same venue. So whenever we booked a ticket to this tour, we knew what we were expecting. We liked the venue. It's really cool. It's a pier rooftop. So on the pier, on a rooftop, and it overlooks one of the bridges. I think I don't know if it's the Brooklyn Bridge, or I think it is the Brooklyn Bridge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're overlooking a bridge. You have kind of the bay, the river. You have the city, to your left. The stage is in front of the bridge that you're looking at, but you see such a cool view of the city, and there's a nice breeze coming off the water. So going to a summer show at this venue is really nice. The downside is that weather can be unpredictable in New York around June. So whenever we got into the city, we flew in Saturday morning, and it was raining pretty much all day. So we ended up exploring a little bit, going to the hotel, resting for a bit because we got up so early and we knew we were going to be up all night with the show. We booked an early dinner somewhere kind of on our way to the venue. So we ate dinner and we got to the venue at doors open at 6. The show was supposed to start at 7. The show that we had gone to previously at Pier 17, we had VIP tickets for Yellow Card. We had to get there very early. We lined up. And the process at that point was we lined up outside. We stayed in line for a little bit. They let us through. We stayed in this like holding area, which was like at the base of the escalators going up to the rooftop inside. And from there, we went up, saw the pre-show, the VIP stuff went on. So I was expecting, I think, for general admission, that we would basically just get in the venue and go straight up to the rooftop. It was not the case. It was the same experience as the VIP from Yellow Card. So we got in line. While we were in line, it was raining. So everyone was kind of laughing, having fun. There was a beautiful full on rainbow behind us, like over the water, over the bridge, which was pretty spectacular, I guess. They said that you couldn't have umbrellas in the venue, but they would zip tie them. That was what the online thing said. So we did bring one umbrella, expecting it to get zip tied, but my husband and I were able to share that standing in line. We didn't bring ponchos because it was only supposed to rain pretty much as we were getting in line, and then it would stop. That was the forecast. So that's all we brought. And we knew we couldn't use it during the show, but we went with it. So we stood in line pretty much at 6, a little after 6, they started moving the line through. So the line actually went really fast. The line itself wasn't that large. It looked like by the time that the actual show started and the crowd filled out, there was probably only a fourth of the crowd that was there at 6 at the opening. So we went through, and then they had us in that holding area for like 45 minutes to an hour. I think we got in around 6:15, 6:20. And yeah, we didn't get up to the rooftop until 7, a little after 7. And then the opener opened at 7:15. So a little bit delayed there. Let me remind myself of who the opener was for our show. I was really sad whenever I was looking up because we bought the tickets for Jack's Mannequin, and I didn't really look at them much more than that. And so before the show, I was like, oh, wait, who's opening? Is it just Jack's Mannequin? Like, what's the deal? And I went to go look at the tour, and I was really sad that the early November May Day Parade are some of the openers of the tour. Even Hello Goodbye is one of the openers. Like, so many bands I would have loved to see. I love early November and May Day Parade. I've seen them multiple times. Love them. I wish that it would have been one of them just because I know them. I'm more familiar with them. But we had Yoke Lore, and they were pretty good. Never heard of them before. The lead singer has a very interesting, like, frontman personality. Like, he dances funny. He really gets into it, but they were good. I didn't know them, but they started at about 7:15. So we got up to the rooftop. There's sort of this, not a VIP section, which is a really frustrating part of this venue. When we had VIP, you don't get access to this like special section that's like barricaded off, like towards the stage, but over to the left. I think the accessibility, like seated area, is right in front of it, directly in front of the stage. So it's right behind that, but it's its own little space with its own like bar and tables and things. So we stood behind that barricade. Ready? I didn't want to get too close up, and because we had the barricade in front of us, I hung my bag on it. We bought a poster, we put that in front of us, all of that stuff. So we kind of had our space, which was really nice. And when we got there, not much of the crowd at all. We had plenty of space. We were like comfortable. All was good. By the time that Yoke Lore finished transitioning over to Jack's Mannequin, the transition period was 15, 20 minutes, very quick, very seamless. No major issues. It did not rain again, but the crowd got really full. My husband is 6'4", I'm 5'4", so we were always kind of funny in a crowd. We were both standing against that barricade, and so he was kind of standing with his hands on. I was standing at the very like corner of it, and on his side there were one group of girls that came in and were like physically pushing him over, trying to like either squeeze in front of him. I don't exactly know what they were doing. Like, they had space at this little barricade, but they were being weirdly aggressive and glaring at me because we were the same height. And it was very weird. They finally left. And then another couple of girls came in, and they were not aggressive. I felt bad for them. We'll get to it. But they stood beside us, and they were a little shorter than me. But my husband kind of like maneuvered a bit so he wasn't blocking them. And then some taller guys stood behind him, which worked out perfectly. So for most of the set, it was a nice little vibe group that we had. We didn't really talk to each other or anything, but stood there, sang the songs together, danced together. It was great. But overall, we stood in that one spot the entire time. We got there, and because the crowd was being very weird, like even because we were looking at the crowd kind of from the barricade back, and they were all trying to like crowd in. It was very strange, especially from like an older crowd. But people are people. They do whatever they want. People are selfish at concerts, which is totally fine. But we had our spot. We were happy. We could see very well. I could see the stage perfectly fine. This venue also has really nice screens. The sound is okay. I think a rooftop, you can't get the best sound, but the sound was overall great. Andrew McMahon is really good to see live in anyway, because just the style of music is different to where his voice can easily come through. There's not a lot of like screaming and other vocals and all this different, like there's the music itself is just really easy to hear, I think, through venue speakers. And so the music was, the sound was really great, but the screens are nice. Whenever we saw Yellowcard, we were at the back. We were pretty much right in front of the sound stage. So same thing, barricade on the back end, to be able to have like all of our stuff down at our feet, sit down when we wanted to, have that as like a backrest. And we could see the screens really well. And you can see a little bit of what's happening on the stage. Like it's a really nice venue for that. And even if you're short, like pretty nice venue, you can spread out, which is great. So we stood in our one spot. We were there the whole time for the next few hours, and then through obviously all of Andrew McMahon's set. So with the set itself, I was expecting, because I've seen Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness twice, and both times that we saw him as that, he like filtered in something corporate, Jack's Mannequin, like Holiday for Real, Dark Blue. He did, Woke Up in a Car, those songs that are very iconic, Constantine a little bit. So I was expecting a Jack's Mannequin set and maybe an encore of maybe an Andrew McMahon song, like Cecilia and the Satellite, maybe Constantine, especially Constantine with that crowd. I was kind of expecting that. But the reality is that the set was 100% Jack's Mannequin, which was special. I think if you grew up loving Jack's Mannequin, if you went to Jack's Mannequin tours, like it is something that you are going to be excited about because it's all Jack's Mannequin. And instead of playing only the hits and then pulling the hits from the other projects, he played like deep into like each record of Jack's Mannequin. And like the transitions between the songs were again seamless. There was not a lot of downtime. Like he talked fairly often. There was production. So it was really well done in terms of the set list. He came out and they started with Holiday from Real. Every day would be a holiday for real. We waste the weeks beneath the sun, fry our brains and write so much fun. And they like came out, he came out, started playing the piano. Like it was really sweet. And throughout different songs, I don't think that they did this for the opener. The opener, the screens behind them had like different kind of graphics going. Each song had a different display in the background, which really helped to make it even a more full set. Like Andrew McMahon has so much energy, the band has energy, but having like the set behind with like all the different graphics that kind of coordinate with the different albums and the different style of the songs was really fun to see. During some of the songs, they had like video footage from their younger years of Jack's Mannequin. And so I don't think it was this song, maybe like the second or third song, they started playing that. So it was kind of like a home video, probably pulled from that documentary and just footage from touring as Jack's Mannequin. So you saw all the band members younger, and that felt really special, just like a nice celebration of the anniversary, which is what you expect, right, at those types of shows. So very nice. And there were a few moments that were tied specifically to the Dear Jack Foundation. So the tour as a whole, proceeds are going, like, I think it's $1 per ticket or something, is going directly to the Dear Jack Foundation. The merch table was set up when we were in that holding area, so you could go, come back. And the posters were more highly priced. We got a poster. It was a signed poster, $50 versus like usually you can get a poster for like $20 or less. But I think that part of the proceeds of the merch went to Dear Jack. And then they had a Dear Jack Foundation table where you would get your poster put in a little tube. And they had a signed drumhead that they were auctioning off. So you donated to the foundation, you entered to win. They announced it from the stage of who won at the very end. So they announced that. And that was one way that they were showcasing the Dear Jack Foundation. There were also little pauses throughout the show with like some different transitions where they would play footage. Some of them they played footage from the Dear Jack documentary.
I hope this thing does well.
With that celebration of what had been going on at the time of this album release and that what we're celebrating. Then they also at one point played a video sharing like what the Dear Jack Foundation does and showcasing that. So there was a lot of that. It wasn't cheesy built in. I grew up in the church community, and like those types of concerts there was always a little bit of cheesiness to some of it, but this wasn't cheesy. It was very much like you are connected to this because of this story, and we're weaving the story into the entire set and into the tour because this is what we are celebrating and this is what we're doing as a collective community. You're part of this. And it was very much centered around that, with just the push towards donations for that drumhead giveaway entry. So very cool to like see those different clips and have that experience built in. I thought it made it feel very special. And then Andrew, talked about that a little bit throughout the set of how not only is this a celebration of Jack's Mannequin and what they did musically, but it was also his 25 years of being cancer free. And he mentioned how amazing and beautiful it is to be so far away from that experience of what was happening 25 years ago, that with the celebration of this tour, his main thought is celebrating Jack's Mannequin and the album release and what the fans did, not necessarily just thinking about the cancer side of it, because he's so far now removed from that experience, which is wonderful because he has been cancer free all of this time and has been able to do so much more since then. I did see an interview where he was talking about this tour and preparing for it. And we were only on, I think, night 3 of the tour. It is very newly going on. Yeah, we're night 3. So they played Portland, Maine, Boston the night before ours, and then New York. So we were only night 3. And he mentioned that. I was like, I don't know what we're doing, like night 3 in New York. Like, this doesn't seem like a good idea, but it was perfect. They did a fantastic job. Like, again, he's such a high quality performer that I would have expected no less than a great show. I think even if something goes wrong, like, he kind of goes with it. He seems very like spontaneous on his feet, like ready to go, and has just such a great attitude as a performer, loves what he's doing, very talented, all of that. So it was a fantastic show. You would not think it was only night 3 of a tour. But he was talking in an interview about preparing for this tour because, again, he hasn't done Jack's Mannequin as a tour for a while. He did, I think last year, the year before last, they did a tour of Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness all together. They're playing When We Were Young, I think, as all 3, or even Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin combo. And so they do a lot. He does a lot where he incorporates these bands, but he hasn't done only Jack's Mannequin and pulled even deeper from the archive of Jack's Mannequin and intentionally celebrated like this part of his life and like brought focus to it. And so in this interview, he was saying that preparing for the tour, like there were some like nerves and kind of a little bit of discomfort in it because it was such a hard time of his life. And I mean, the songs are pretty heartbreaking. Like, I'm sure that is hard to revisit in a lot of ways because it wasn't just, teenage heartbreak that he was going through. Like, it was a huge point in his life where things were so hard. Right. And they took a break because even touring and all of that was really hard. And so it's not just all rosy to reflect on. And so he mentioned how it was a little tough preparing for this tour and going on tour, celebrating this specific moment because of how hard it was. During the show, he kind of talked about that a little bit, but he kind of flipped it on its head a little bit too. And he was like, this album, like everything that it showcases, like it truly is meant to be a heartbreaking, like breakup album. He said, but because of everything that happened through the release of this album and, what followed and where I was in my life, like it's actually ended up to being like a really beautiful, like love album and like love story with the fans. and just the vulnerability of getting help and asking for help and having community and support around you, which is really interesting. So it's kind of fun. He would present a lot of songs kind of with that underlying tone, which made them feel so much more special. And I wasn't so tied to Jack's Mannequin. I would, just out of transparency, I love Jack's Mannequin. I love Andrew McMahon. I loved mostly the hits, followed along with those. I was never just a huge like Jack's Mannequin fan. I didn't go to Jack's Mannequin tour back in the day. I didn't have like the albums or any of that stuff back then. And so I didn't have this like huge personal connection, but listening to the songs, there are so many that are, they hit you to the core. Like Dark Blue is pretty intense alone. It's, catchy and sounds kind of silly in a way because of the beat of it and everything. But the lyrics are, it's like all about craving connection and support and community. And that's a big deal. And also a lot of people were crying during the "You Gotta Swim for Your Life," the fighting for what you want, fighting for yourself. Like there's a lot of tones to the music from Jack's Mannequin and the lyrics there, even compared to other Andrew McMahon projects that are very vulnerable. And the older you get, the more you go through, the more that you connect. And so there were some moments that were just really special in that way. The set of girls that were beside my husband, they knew every word to every song. And I felt bad that they were in that spot because of some other people, but they cried most songs. Like they were really into it. And that was special to experience too. Like it was so meaningful to them. And then I had another group of girls like to my right, that one girl was like old school Jack's Mannequin band tee, like screaming the lyrics to every song, like fully into it, which is one of the favorite things about going to shows like this, is seeing people just like fully immersed in it and enjoying it and loving it fully. Like it was a nice experience to have, being near those people and getting to see that, even though I didn't have that depth of knowledge of every song, but very special. During the set, he did mention that it was the first show of the tour that they played the song. They haven't played the song. He said, since they pretty much released it, like they've maybe only played it a handful of times ever, which was kind of special. And that's American Love. And they were like, give us grace. It's our first time playing it. It was fantastic, of course. But that was a cool moment of the show. There's also a moment in any Andrew McMahon set. He usually rides like a floaty across the fan, like across the venue. I've seen that at both of the shows I've been to of his, and it's typically a llama. And so there was a part of the show he was like, couldn't find a llama, but I found a duck. And he rode a giant rubber ducky floaty. It's kind of a silly thing because he just gets on it and then basically crowd surfs all the way back and then all the way to the front. But it's an iconic Andrew McMahon moment, and that was there. I don't know if that went back to like the Jack's Mannequin days or where that started as a tradition for him, but it was really funny, and we got good footage of that, which was fun to experience. And everyone was really into it because that's his thing. He also did come out into the crowd and like sang with fans and walked around the crowd. Again, one of the things I think that he does so incredibly well is his connection to his fans, and his music leans towards, I think, having good, like respectful relationships with fans. You don't really get quite as much of the like people attacking it. Like it's not a Pierce the Veil set or something, he can, I think, be a bit more like vulnerable and in the crowd more. And he's a small guy. So it seems a little scary, but he like jumped, the barricade and walked through the fan groups, and he didn't come near our side. He was mostly on the other side, but then went back on the stage. And that was really cool. There were a lot of those little special moments of keeping it interesting. He also brought out an electric guitarist that had played on some earlier albums of Jack's Mannequin. He brought him out for a few songs. I believe he was out for Dark Blue, but I don't remember. He was out for a few of the songs. And that was pretty cool too, just to have like another person that had been part of some of their shows back in the day and like been, connected to the band in some way and performed with the band. But maybe they lived in New York. I'm not really sure, but he brought him out. So that was a cool moment. The unfortunate moment was just, adults who can't handle their alcohol. So we did have this guy that was probably 6'6" or more. He was taller than my husband by a little bit and a very large man. And then his girlfriend, wife, partner, who was probably almost 6 foot herself, like very tall, totally fine. They stood kind of in front of us, but not directly in front of us. I could see, not a big deal. Their height is not their fault. They were at the back of their little VIP barricade area. So they were there. Unfortunately, they stood right in front of those shorter girls that were beside my husband, which sucks. And I know that they missed out on some things because of that, which was unfortunate. We tried to create space, but can only do so much. But as the show went on, this couple kept getting drunker and drunker and drunker. At one point, the guy fell on top of the girl, like grabbed my wrist, like really hurt it. Thankfully, not too badly, but almost knocked the barricade down. So the second half of the set, there were a lot of moments of like trying to kind of brace myself and not get stressed about this couple. They knew the lyrics to the songs, but he would also just like yell talk between and kept saying the same thing. It was so confusing of like, we're the only like so many out of so many million people in the world that get to experience this. That's so effing cool. Like every song at that point. And so I think I even have some clips I took of like some of the songs, and you could hear him yelling in the background. Sign he just got drunk, which was it's frustrating. I think adults who can't handle alcohol and like ruin experiences for others, it's so annoying. But by the end, he was basically leaning on our barricade, like kept touching me. So he just kept falling over. My husband had to kind of like help steady the barricade behind me just to make sure that like he didn't knock it. Because if he knocked it over, like we were all it was shoulder to shoulder. Like we were all touching all parts of each other. That's how tight the crowd got packed in at that point. And so if that fell, like we're all screwed. And again, big guy. And so that was a little annoying, but he and his partner knew all the songs. Unfortunately, they tried to take a few videos and like were so drunk that they couldn't even work their cameras properly. Like it was sloppy and a mess. So they were the only downside of the whole thing, but blocked them out as much as possible. Just kind of checked in every now and then for safety, but blocked out overall. And he wasn't aggressive and mean, just like sloppy drunk, which was frustrating, but all okay. I had a good experience. After the show, that I feel like maybe it's a New York thing because we saw this too whenever we were at the same venue for Yellow Card, like getting out of the venue. I would suggest if you go to that venue, like after the show, as long as you're not in a rush. I think a lot of people are trying to rush to get to the subway or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but you have to go down these escalators and people will push you, like are very aggressive. And again, maybe it's a New York thing, but it's almost like how people talked about the Pierce the Veil, like younger generation fans and how intense they are, which we saw and experienced in Nashville. These are like older fans. So everyone was probably in 30s, 40s, 50s, but weirdly aggressive. So I would say at that venue, you're likely, if that overwhelms you, it stresses me out a little bit, especially because the down elevator wasn't working. So we all had to walk down like the steps. So people were like rushing down these steps, like, and like pushing you out of the way to get in front of you, just like weird. There was no order to it, total chaos, and everyone was just rushing. I would suggest if that overwhelms you, just staying up at the rooftop. Maybe go look at the view for a little bit. It's probably what we should have done because we weren't in a hurry, but go look at the view, enjoy yourself. After the show, we walked down, like there was a Little Italy pizza place, like pretty close to the venue down the street. We stopped there. It wasn't crowded. Delicious pizza. So it's in post-show pizza. We went to the bathroom at the venue. The bathrooms at that venue are really great. So that is a positive. They're really nice, but we had stayed in that one spot the entire show. So we used the bathroom, went to get pizza, and then went back to our hotel. Like we walked back and it all worked out. And it was wonderful. It was a wonderful night. Perfect night in New York City for a show, and great to see Jack's Mannequin. I will post my little like recap with clips that I got. at the end as soon as I sign off for this episode. If you're interested in seeing that we posted through socials, but just little clips if you're watching this visually and you want to see it. And then in our next show, I'm not exactly sure what we're covering next. Again, I'm kind of in a rush today, so might be a little bit of a surprise. I believe we have next, maybe Hawthorne Heights is up next. We'll see. Maybe another show recap. I am technically like last minute decided to go to a show. I don't know if I'll recap. I'll just leave that as it is. We'll see what I decide at that point. But got cheap tickets and I'm going out of curiosity more than anything. You can probably guess what it is. So maybe we'll recap that. There's a little bit of mystery of what's coming your way. But my next official show is going to be Dashboard with Goo Goo Dolls. And that's coming up in July. So that should be, I'll do a recap of that show and Dashboard Set specifically. And then we'll be leading into My Chemical Romance, which is coming up very soon. So we will do a pre-show, deep dive into them, and then a post-show recap of their Black Parade tour. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you are interested in the deep dive on Andrew McMahon and his role within the scene, Jack's Mannequin, some of those things I hinted towards, like with his story and the different projects that he did. If you were unfamiliar with the fact that he was also part of something corporate, I remember whenever I learned that Jack's Mannequin, something corporate, and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness were all like the same front man, then you want to go watch that recap episode. It is a handful of episodes back, and some of our other recap episodes that are more deep dives into the bands themselves, their history, their biggest moments, all of those things, and then be looking out for more show recaps if that is of interest to you. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in our next class.
This flood is slowly rising up, swallowing the ground beneath my feet. Tell me how anybody thinks under this condition. So I'll swim, as the water rises up, sun is sinking down, and now all I can see are the planets in a row, suggesting it's best that I